hello, and welcome to Talking with the Angels. Today is Thursday, April 26th, and this is my second attempt because my first attempt did not make it. So, yes, I'm trying it again. I recorded the whole entire thing listening to air, and for some reason it didn't record. I was kind of bummed about it, and then I realized that there was a reason. Of course, there's a reason. Why? Because we were talking all about transitioning our light body and listening to our intuition. And I thought, okay, I recorded a decent one, was kind of bummed it didn't record. And sitting today, quietly channeling spirit, I realized there was a huge missing piece to that message. Yes, we are physical and we are energetic. Our soul is our navigation system. It's what God gave us. It's our energetic, our light body. And when we transition from knowing that we are more than the physical and start tapping deeper into our soul, into our light body, into our energetic system, and merging those together, realizing we are one unit connected to Source, there comes a point where we start listening to our soul, to our intuition. But I left out kind of the trust piece. So we'll talk a little bit today about our light body and transitioning into that and trusting our our intuition. I think the most important piece is trust, because a lot of people have a hard time trusting their guidance, trusting their intuition. It's head versus heart, and sometimes people listen to their head instead of their heart. So we'll go in a little bit and kind of dissect each of these, and then I have a channel piece that I'll read to you at the end. So we all know that we, of course, are physical beings. Everybody says we are, a lot of people say that we are souls having a human experience. A lot of people say we're humans having and trying to figure out the soul piece. So I teach this in all my classes. Listening to your intuition, recognizing deeper self-love, recognizing your soul. If you are interested in any of those, check it out on my website, talkingwithangels.com. I'm going to give you some few pieces on what I talk about in my classes. So when we transition into our light body and start listening to our intuition deeper, we recognize that our soul has a voice, our soul has a feeling, our soul has an emotion, and it's connected to Source. It's love. But so many times we don't listen to that, and sometimes it puts us in a dangerous situation, or in a situation where we're like, man, I wish I would have trusted myself. So I want to kind of dig into that deeper. I talk about our souls, our navigation system. It's what God created. It's what God gave us to help us kind of maneuver here on this physical plane. And so many people have silenced our soul, silenced our intuition, and moved away from that and only listened to what's logic. So for all my logical people out there, I ask you to open up your mind and open up your heart and listen to the words. So when we listen deeper to our soul, it's that little voice inside. Everybody talks about it like a sixth sense, your gut feeling. I'm going to talk about it as a soul today. That's the word I like to use. It's all kind of wrapped in one. So the piece that's missing here that I missed out on my first recording was trust. There's different techniques you can do to build your trust. So many people teach all sorts of different things on how to connect deeper with trust and trust self and trust others. So before I even jump into the intuition part or trusting yourself, I think it's important that if you lack trust within self and with other people, it's important to make a checklist. So many people are visuals, and when they write it down and really see where they lack trust or who they lack trust, it's easier to kind of manage and work at. So write yourself a checklist. Who do you not trust, and why don't you trust? Your list may be short, your list may be long. See if there's a common theme with everything you wrote down. See if there's one big portion that sticks out or one main thing that sticks out, and work on that one first. Sometimes you may need help doing this with counseling, with whatever that, talking to somebody. I always advise to talk to somebody. Sometimes it's important to, when you work through issues, not doing it by yourself. And when you start realizing what and where and who and why you lack trust, then you start working on that piece. It always comes back to an emotional feeling on why you lack trust. Either somebody was there for you, let you down, you've let yourself down. Those are all pieces that you can heal within. So when you've got over the big rock, I tell people, and even people that are still healing, we constantly heal throughout this life. You take baby steps. I call them intuition games. I'll give you examples of a few of mine. These ones are silly, but sometimes people like to have fun and don't want to take things too serious, so silly intuition games build to a bigger state of trust. We all know the feeling and the emotion that you had, like when you did something and you were like, man, I shouldn't have done that. I should have listened to myself. That was a wrong step. You know what that emotion is. Or when you walk into a situation and you're like, why did I do that? I should have listened to myself. So you know what that is. You hold that emotion, you hold that feeling, you hold that thought, that time, that place. And then you turn to another time where you're like, man, I made the right decision there. I listened to myself. Okay? Then you focus on that scenario, that time, that place, that emotion. So you have two here. You know what one feels like, and you know what the other one feels like. It's almost your yes and no, you're white, you're black, you're good, you're bad, whatever, even though there's not good and bad, but you get what I'm saying. You know the emotions that you felt during each scenario. You trust those, own it, you know what it was, you've been there, done that, got it. So I do this a couple times when I don't feel like thinking and just kind of want to just in a state of being in the moment and turning my life over to God and to the angels and just be in the present moment. I tell Spirit in the morning, okay, I'm going to do whatever you guys tell me to do. I'm going to trust completely. So one morning I had to go to the bank and my husband was doing work here at the house and I wanted him to go, but he was taking forever and I was being impatient. So I said, come on, let's go. And he's like, I can't, I got to finish this. And I was like, fine, I'm just going to go. He's like, okay, whatever. So I left and I tell Spirit, tell me which way you want me to go. So they say, okay, turn left, turn right, so on and so forth. So usually it's the same way as I turn out of the area where I live and onto a main road. And I had to turn right at the light to get to the bank in the direction that I needed to go, and Spirit wanted me to turn left. And I'm arguing with Spirit, and I'm like, why am I turning left? This is in the opposite direction. It's almost like going back to my house. Like, why would you do that? And they just kept saying, just trust us, just turn left. I was like, fine. So I turned left, and I was like, oh, wait, maybe I need to run by my son's school. Maybe I'll see him outside playing. I'm like, I don't even know why I'm doing this, but whatever. So turn left, and as soon as I was about to turn back to the main road again, a different highway that would lead me in the same thing, my husband called and was like, oh, I'm ready. I kind of chuckled because I was like, okay, well, I'm by the house still, so I'll swing by and pick you up. So that was funny. So I thought that one was good. And there's also another one I like to do. I go to the gym on Wednesdays and do Zumba, and the gym is always packed, and it's so hard to find a place to park. So I pull in the parking lot. I say, okay, Spirit, where do I park? He'll tell me left, turn right, whatever. And I'm usually pretty close to the door. And my girlfriend said, oh, well, I'm parked way out where? And I said, well, play the intuition game. And she's like, what do you mean? And I told her. She's like, okay. So she leaves, after we get done doing our workout, she leaves and she's like, I played the intuition game and it worked. So I use those as something simple. You could do it driving to a certain place or you get that urge to go to a store and you don't know why and you never listened. You don't know which conversation you may have passed up, a person you may have met, maybe just something you missed on seeing. I like to do this driving home and just kind of taking a different path, seeing a different side of town, or maybe animals that a couple times I've done this and Spirit wanted me to go like a certain way. I asked a question. I don't remember what the question was, and I said, okay, I don't remember what it was. If I see so many animals or something, and they had me turn to where I saw just exactly that. So I love the intuition game. It's a connection you can have with Spirit that's fun, that's not kind of a lot of pressure or, anxiety, because sometimes a lot of people feel that when they start trusting and talking to Spirit and really diving in deep with their soul. So those are a fun one. Other ways you can trust. To me, it feels like a standard on a car. I've talked about this on my videos on my Facebook page. When you start working and diving deep within your soul and recognizing and understanding yourself deeper and realizing there is no separation between us and Source, us and God, us and the universe. It's kind of like driving a manual car. That point where you let the clutch out and push the gas, and then before you know it, you realize you're not even on the clutch anymore. I remember when my mom was teaching me to drive, and she just said, you just have to find that give. You just have to find that give. And when you constantly work and trust with Spirit and yourself and your soul, it's just like that. You just kind of have to find that point, because before you know it, you're just on the gas and you're in a state of trust. Yes, there is, just like a road where there's hiccups where you kind of doubt. And I say to always come within and center, get connected again with your breath. Take a deep breath. A lot of people meditate. Some of my clients come to me and say, I can't meditate. And I say, just take time out and just silence your mind and listen. And then I have a lot of clients who come to me and says, I can't silence my mind. Then I ask you, what are you thinking about? What are you letting your mind run out of control and run? It's literally running your life over. You're letting it have all the control. What is so important that you can't give yourself 5 minutes to just breathe? Then you need to write your list on what that is. Not allowing yourself to take 5 minutes out and just breathe and listen. There's a fear block there on what you're going to hear. That's another piece I teach. Why are you afraid to listen? What are you afraid you're going to hear? We all have active minds. But to get peace, serenity, and stillness, you've got to be able to silence the mind. So figure out what your fear is of silencing the mind. It's one of those things you have to write down and visualize and see. Write a checklist and work through it. It's important for I'm like trying to find the words to describe how important it is just to breathe and silence the mind. There's so much stress that everybody has self-created in the world. Letting their mind, their fear, their insecurities run out of control. So you really want to be cognitive and write down what are you so afraid of? What is letting your mind run out of control? What is it? It's important to write it down and see it. So many, counselors say it's important to see, you can't change it unless you're aware of it.